moments or periods of hope. But the last 2 years, two things happened that really made me not swing, what do you call it? Spiral, go in spiral in my whole. I'm so happy because they are giving me a lot of hope. The first thing that happened, which I think first I can call it a human volcano, was what happened during the 18 days in Maidan al-Tahrir, Liberation Square in Cairo. People started gathering. And when they started gaining momentum, two things happened. The first, from the political parties, from all the organizations, NGOs, etc., declaring they have nothing to do with it. They were afraid. It was beautiful because it means it was done not by organized planning, strategic planning and all of that, but it was done by people, pure. The second thing that happened to stop that flow, the government closed the internet, shut off internet in all of Egypt, and the Facebook, because somehow some stupid TV stations around the world claimed that it was the Facebook that created it and so on, and the email and everything else. The people in the Maidan, in the square, became much more. You know why? I learned this actually from friends in Cairo, that before they shut off that, people stayed at home and through texting and so on were knowing what was happening in the square. When that was shut off, there was only one way to know what's happening in the square. So 1 million people were in the square to know what's happening because they didn't have any other access. So technology, actually, the cutting off of technology made the revolution in Cairo very successful and very human contact. The most important characteristic of what happened in Cairo was trust, which we never use in academia. Trust is not used, and if it is used, it is abused, not used. In Cairo, for 18 days, there was trust, and among people that never knew each other. And there was a community that was created, as I said, with nothing Western in it. All the leadership, all the organizational talk, etc., was absent. People did it. How did they do it? Because they knew how to go back home. That was the meaning of community in Cairo. Although Cairo had 20 million people, still there was a spirit and there were roots in the community, and they were able to deal with 1 million people in a square for 18 days. What was beautiful about that, for the first time, the West, especially New York, copied the East. In maybe 300 years, we were always copying the West, thinking that this is the way. For the first time, young people in New York went into the big master, not the White House. I was in the States, and sometimes when we had demonstrations, we would go to the White House, to the Congress, to all these servants of Wall Street. For the first time, the young people of New York knew, and they learned it from Egypt, they should go to the main source and not go around. And one of the first placards that were carried in New York, Wall Street, was, "The Maidan is here." Probably you have seen it on TV screens. The Maidan is here. The square is here. For the first time, New York was inspired by people who knew how to go back home. And they went back home. And their home is the 99%. That's their home. I don't know many uses of math, but definitely the slogan of "we are the 99% is a beautiful application of math. because it didn't really have to say much to convince people where they belong. Everybody knew when they saw this is the 90%, I belong to the 90%. Why are the 1% taking everything from us and we are 90%? That marriage between the Liberation Square in Cairo and between Occupy Wall Street in New York, to me, is a human quake of magnitude 10. It's a quake. It really shook the foundations of everything up till that moment. That's why we see now there is frenzy, craziness among people who really hold power everywhere from this marriage. They want to pull it apart. They don't want to have marriage between the East and West, a globalization between East and West in this sense, where they complement each other and they fight the common enemy, and the common enemy is greedy people, whether they greed for power or for money or for control or whatever. This marriage to me is a sign of hope, a sign of healing. The world is healing, and we really we need universities that will go into this path. Now, all of this, about 5 months ago, 7 months ago actually, I've been talking in Palestine for a long time and trying to do it with some young people, how to bring back, again, go home in our thinking and take the spirit of the House of Wisdom in Baghdad 1,200 years ago. Notice the House of Wisdom in Baghdad does not have any adjective in the sense that the Baghdad House of Islamic Wisdom, because these adjectives become part of the problem. Because if it is a house of wisdom, then all civilizations, all ways of thinking are part of it. And I want really one Palestinian university at least to have that house of wisdom. I wrote letters to all the universities and saying, please give room for just 10 or 20 people to really work with wisdom as our value, as our vision. And finally, there is this group that somehow managed to have this possibility. And they asked me if I'm ready to work with the young people. I said, I'm ready definitely if first I meet with the young people and we do it together. Because if they don't accept it, then there is no sense. If they really want to go through the usual, these are students that are students in Al-Quds University. But it is in the camp. And so the project is called Campus in Camps. Campus in Camps. The Jami'ah, the university, in the camp. And I've been working with them since February. It's a beautiful, beautiful feeling. It's a beautiful, hopeful, inspiring experiment. And so far, neither the university, nor academia, nor academics have interfered. So hopefully, they won't. Because all what we really want to show is there is another way of dealing with higher education. And the basic idea there is to have, again, knowledge contextualized. Each one of these students come from a context, from a certain refugee camp, and they have their life there. So I said, there is no sense to give you one course, to give you one information that will fit you all. Each one will go there, his or her own path, and then the campuses and camps will try to nurture that and be nurtured by what you have. And so far, it has been working fine. I put some explanation of this in some details in the paper that you will have, but if anyone is interested, we can also explore it further. One thing I stressed with the students, I said that before you get any knowledge from outside, you have to strengthen your own roots. And I took this image from a friend of mine who is an anthropologist about bitter almonds. You know, the almond tree. There's bitter almonds and there's sweet almonds. Now, the bitter almond in the Palestinian context, and I think more around the Mediterranean, is known to be the most resistant to any kind of diseases. So if you really want to, let's say, have a plum tree or apricot tree or apple tree, whatever fruit tree you want to get, if you first plant a bitter almond tree and then graft any other one, then you are already having the stem protecting it. That is, you have the stem and the roots very strong, so then you can add anything, it doesn't matter. I said, it is very important first to build knowledge that is rooted. You become like a stem, protected, self-protected. You have internal immunity against any kind of ideas that really right now go around the world with the idea of like quality of education and the right of education and all that. You will be protected from all these bombardments, and then you can add anything you want. But first, you have to strengthen your stem and your trees, your roots. And the students actually love this because they have always heard their parents, when they planted something, they planted first a bitter almond tree and then put whatever they wanted. So I want to finish with something that I feel is very, I hope that it will be taken, and obviously it's starting in Al-Bukhari University. Wisdom, in my opinion, or actually reclaiming wisdom in our lives and in our learning should be our vision. Reclaiming wisdom. And to me, a main opposite or destroyer of wisdom is the invention of failures. This is a new invention. A new invention in the sense that if, for example, you wanted to climb a tree and you failed, people will say, you failed in climbing the tree. But they don't give that person a certificate saying he's a failure. He should never try anything again. But in schools and universities, we give them for life a judgment. They are failures. This year, this past summer, when the general exam, Palestinian exam, was declared, 38% of the students who sat for that test, for that exam, failed. It's not failed in a small way. The whole world, all the universities around the world were told, in fact, don't accept them as students because they have been judged as failures for life. This concept of a failure for life is a new invention. And to me, we have to fight it. And I think Al-Bukhari University, if it doesn't take this small item to fight this disease that is called failure, we will not go very far. And we, and I mean here by we, especially Arabs and Muslims, we have a beautiful, beautiful statement in our history, going back home. And this statement was said by Imam Ali 1,400 years ago.